They said I was just getting old, that it was natural to forget little things. But I've never been the kind of woman who loses track of anything, especially not my own mind. It started 2 months after Ada moved in. She came with smiles and delicate hands, the kind that never seemed to do real work, yet always had a tray of something sweet and warm. Mama, she called me, with that voice that made strangers melt. She fooled everyone, even my son, Chuka, especially him. The first time I felt dizzy was after dinner. Nothing unusual, just egusi and pounded yam. But as I stood to take my plate to the kitchen, the room spun not like a head rush, but like a slow, swaying ocean. My knees buckled, I grabbed the chair. Ada rushed over. Mama, are you okay? Her hands were soft but too quick, too rehearsed. I shook my head, told her I was fine. Must be stress, I thought. But the symptoms didn't stop. The next week, I lost my appetite. My joints ached, some mornings. My fingers trembled, just trying to hold a cup. And that cup, that cursed teacup, always filled with Ada's evening special. Ginger, honey, lemon. Always too sweet, but I drank it anyway. Chuka said I was working too hard in the garden. Rest more, mama. Let Ada handle things, he insisted. So I did. I handed over the kitchen, the shopping, the evening meals. And that's when it got worse. By the end of the second month, I was forgetting appointments. I woke up once and didn't recognize my own handwriting in a journal I've kept for 20 years. I stared at it for a long time, the letters dancing like strangers. I told my doctor. He smiled kindly, tapped a few keys on his laptop, and said these things happen, age, maybe anemia. But I know my body. And something was wrong. Still I smiled, played along, let Ada pour my tea each night. But I began pouring half of it down the drain once she left the room. And on the days I didn't drink it, I felt clearer, stronger. I wasn't sick, I wasn't crazy. I was being poisoned slowly. And the worst part, the person doing it lived under my roof and called me mama. From the outside, Ada was the daughter-in-law every mother dreamed of. She cooked, cleaned, called me mama like she meant it. To the neighbors, she was respectful. To the church, a model wife. To my son, Chuka, she was his peace in a chaotic world. But to me, she started to feel like a shadow in my house, always present, always watching, too perfect to be true. Before their wedding, Chuka brought her home for the first time. She wore a yellow dress and smiled like someone who had memorized the script of humility. She helped in the kitchen, laughed at all of Chuka's stories, and told me how lucky she was to be joining our family. I wanted to like her. I truly did. But something in her eyes, it flickered, like someone who was performing for an invisible audience. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. My son was happy. I had prayed for him to find a good woman. Maybe this was just me adjusting to the change. But that first month after they moved in, I noticed things, small things. I'd leave my room and find her in the sitting room, pretending to scroll through her phone. But her eyes would dart to the hallway. I'd misplace little items, my keys, my favorite scarf, the remote, and they'd turn up in the strangest places. And the food, she insisted on cooking everything. Even my tea, let me take care of you, mama, she'd say. At first, I thought she was simply trying to impress me. But the insistence, the control, it started to feel like something more. I remember one evening, I woke up from a nap and overheard her talking to someone on the phone in the guest bathroom. Her voice was low, urgent. She's getting weaker, I'm doing everything right. She drinks it every night. My blood ran cold. She stopped speaking when she heard me shift. By the time I opened the door, she was holding her toothbrush, smiling. Oh, mama, you're awake. I was just getting ready for bed. I nodded. I didn't let her see my fear. That night, I poured my tea into the sink and kept the cup. I wrapped it in a plastic bag and hid it behind my wardrobe, just in case. Because now, I wasn't just suspicious. I was sure. My house, once filled with peace and prayers, had become a place of whispers. Not just hers, but mine too. I started talking to myself in hushed tones, questioning my memory, praying quietly, pretending not to notice the tremor in my hands. When I held the cup she served me, the walls had ears, I was sure of it. And Ada, she watched me like she was counting down to something. She still smiled, of course. She always did. She'd peek into my room before bed, brush imaginary crumbs off the couch, or fold laundry I didn't ask her to touch. But I saw her eyes sharp, calculating, always tracking what I ate, what I drank, and how long I stayed awake. One night, I left my bedroom just past midnight. I was careful, barefoot, avoiding the creaky spots on the floor. I needed water, real water. That's when I heard it again, her voice. Low and conspiratorial, this time. She wasn't on the phone. She was talking to Chuka. She's getting worse, she whispered. I think it's time we suggest a home. Or somewhere more professional. I'm worried. I froze in the hallway. A home. I was the one who raised Chuka alone after his father passed. The house we stood in was built from my sweat and late-night tailoring jobs. I had buried my own dreams to make sure that boy had a future. And now his wife wanted me out. Locked away. I stepped back silently, my heart racing. I returned to my room, locked the door, and cried quietly into my pillow. But I didn't let it break me. The next morning, I told Ada I was feeling much better. I even complimented her tea. I drank half, then poured the rest into a jar I had hidden in my wardrobe, next to the cup from 2 nights ago. Something inside me had shifted. I was no longer just suspicious. I was gathering evidence. I sat on the cold examination table, the smell of antiseptic thick in the air. The doctor was kind, too kind. The kind that pats your hand and calls everything a natural part of aging. Fatigue, memory lapses, light tremors. It's common, Mama, he said, scanning my chart. You're still strong for your age. I forced a smile, but inside I was screaming. This wasn't age, it wasn't stress. It was Ada and her tea. I think someone might be giving me something, I said, lowering my voice. He looked up surprised. What kind of something? I hesitated. I don't know, I feel strange after drinking what she gives me. His pen froze. Are you suggesting your daughter-in-law is poisoning you? I'm not accusing, I replied. I'm asking you to check. He nodded slowly, then stood and gently said, I'll order blood work. But I could see it in his eyes. The doubt, the same look Chuka had been giving me lately. Like I was slowly losing my grip. The tests came back normal. No abnormalities, no toxins. I left the clinic with a weight in my chest, heavier than when I arrived. Was I losing it? Was Ada too smart, too careful? Back at home, she was waiting for me at the door. Welcome, Mama, you look tired. Let me make your tea. That night, I stared at the steaming cup she handed me. Did the doctor say anything? She asked sweetly. I smiled. He said I need more rest and love. She giggled. You'll get plenty of both here. I didn't drink the tea. I excused myself early, claiming a headache. Then, in the middle of the night, I crept back to the hospital with the teacup I had saved. Not my blood. The tea. The nurse at the lab was an old friend of mine from church, Grace. Quiet, sharp, and trustworthy. When I brought her the tea sample, I didn't need to say much. She saw the fear in my eyes and understood. Give me a day, she whispered. I'll run a quiet test. That night, I returned home to a house that suddenly felt like enemy territory. I began noticing everything. The way Ada watched me drink. The slight smirk when she caught me yawning at odd hours. The way Chuka's concern for me had grown more scripted. It all confirmed what I already knew. I had to act. But carefully. I started looking for clues. It was early morning, just before sunrise. When I entered their room, Ada had gone to the market and Chuka was in the shower. I had less than 10 minutes. I moved swiftly, opened her dresser drawers, nothing. Just makeup, scarves, and jewelry. Then I saw it. A small drawer in the side table, locked. I didn't panic. I simply walked into the kitchen and picked up the knife sharpener. It fit just enough into the lock. A wiggle, a twist. Click. Inside were 2 small plastic pouches of powder, a packet of unmarked pills, a notebook. I pulled the drawer out completely and took it into my room, locking my door. I flipped open the notebook. Page after page of odd scribbles, reminders and meal notes. But one page stopped me cold. Half a teaspoon with tea, builds up slowly. Memory first, then coordination, then liver. And next to it, a list of days, dates, and notes like weaker today and refused second cup. I pressed a trembling hand to my chest. She was recording my decline. A sound in the hallway startled me, Chuka's voice. I quickly returned the contents, locked the drawer, and returned to my room. I sat there frozen, waiting for Grace to call. If what was in that tea matched what I just found, then I wasn't crazy. I was a target. And Ada was running out of time. Grace called the next afternoon. Her voice was steady, but I could feel the weight of her words before she spoke them. Mama, the tea sample tested positive for arsenic. Trace amounts, just enough to build up over time, unnoticed. I sank into my chair, my breath caught in my throat, so it was true. Ada was killing me, slowly, gently, lovingly, with every cup she served. And Chuka, he was either too blind to see it, or too far gone to believe it. But now I had proof. And I needed more. I didn't rush to the police. No, I'd been underestimated long enough. It was time to use that. That evening, I acted weaker than usual. I shuffled slowly, winced at nothing. Even forgot Chuka's name on purpose. Ada's eyes lit up just a little too much. When she brought the tea, I smiled and said, "My favorite part of the day." I didn't drink it. I poured it into another jar when she left the room. That night, while everyone was asleep, I placed a tiny hidden camera in the kitchen, one my late husband had used when thieves were stealing from his shop years ago. It still worked. I positioned it just right, angled toward the counter where Ada made her special tea every night. For 2 days, I waited. I acted more tired, more disoriented. I even asked Ada to write down my medications for me. She was practically humming when she brought me my tea. On the third night, I retrieved the footage. I took it into my room, locked the door and watched. There she was, calm, smiling, grinding something into the cup, stirring, tasting, pouring. Then she looked up, directly into the camera. My heart stopped. Had she seen it? I froze the screen. No, she wasn't looking into the lens. She was checking the hallway mirror's reflection. She didn't know. I had her. Not just on suspicion, not just on instinct. On camera. The next morning, I woke up with one goal: to make sure I couldn't be talked down or doubted ever again. I dressed slowly, with purpose, wrapped my scarf, put on my best wrapper, and packed the evidence like a soldier going to war. 2 jars of untouched tea, her notebook, and the USB drive with the kitchen footage. I didn't go to the hospital this time. I went straight to the police. The officer at the front desk listened with that polite smile people give older women. But when I laid everything out, the lab results, the recordings, the journal entry that read like a hit list, his smile disappeared. He called his superior. They brought me into a private room. "You're saying your daughter-in-law has been poisoning you slowly?" the officer asked. "I'm saying she's trying to kill me," I said, "and I have proof." They watched the footage. At one point, the younger officer's hand gripped the edge of the table. "She's grinding something into your drink like it's salt," he said. And smiling while doing it, I added, "They didn't need more. We'll need you to cooperate with us." They said, "Act as usual, we want to catch her red-handed with physical evidence. Tonight." I nodded. It wasn't easy pretending nothing had changed. My hands trembled the moment I walked back into the house. But I kept my face blank. I laughed when she told me a joke. I accepted the tea with gratitude. And this time, I left the camera running. At midnight, I received a text from the officer. "We have what we need. Tomorrow we move." I stared at Ada as she watched television in the parlor, her face glowing in the TV light. She looked so normal, so gentle, but I knew what she was. And in less than 24 hours, so would everyone else. The morning began like any other. Sunlight spilled through the curtains. The sound of a kettle whistled from the kitchen. Ada moved about the house humming a gospel tune, the irony not lost on me. But inside, I was trembling with quiet victory. The officers had given clear instructions. Invite them over under the pretense of a family dinner. Act normal, they would be close by. Ready to act once I confirmed the deed had been done. By 5 p.m., I told Ada I was feeling well enough to host a small dinner. She was thrilled. "Oh, Mama, that's wonderful. I'll make your favorite jollof rice and peppered chicken," she said. She didn't know this would be the last meal she'd ever cook in my house. By 7 o'clock, Chuka arrived from work. The table was set, the house warm with the scent of seasoned stew. And just before we sat down, Ada brought out the final touch, my evening tea. She handed it to me with that same sugary smile. "I added a little extra ginger tonight, Mama. Helps with digestion." I accepted it and took a long, slow sip, the only one I'd take. Then I nodded to Chuka. "I want to show you something before we eat," I said, rising to my feet. He looked confused. Ada stiffened beside him. I walked to the television, inserted the USB drive, and pressed play. At first, it was just the kitchen. Then Ada entered the frame, calm, cheerful, grinding something white and powdery into my tea. The moment froze the room. Chuka stood slowly. "Ada, what is that?" She didn't speak. The video played on her smile, her humming, the casual way she stirred and poured the poison. "Answer me," he shouted. Ada stammered. It's not what it looks like, it's just vitamins, herbs." I held up the lab report. "Arsenic," I said. "And here's the notebook, your daily dosage notes." Her face drained of color. Then a knock at the door. 2 officers stepped in, firm and silent. "Ada Akefer, you are under arrest for attempted murder." She screamed, cried, clung to Chuka. But he stepped back from her like she was fire. I sat down, calm now, and finally took the sip I'd been waiting for all along. The taste of justice. The silence after her arrest was heavier than her presence had ever been. Chuka didn't eat a single bite that night. He sat at the table, long after the officers left, staring at the untouched plate of jollof rice like it was foreign. I don't understand, he kept muttering. She said she loved you. She said she loved me. I didn't answer him right away. What could I say? That love doesn't come with powdered poison. That women like Ada know how to wear masks better than they wear makeup. Instead, I stood up, walked over to the teacup still resting on the tray, and poured it down the sink slowly. Final. I tried to tell you, Chuka, I said gently. You chose not to see. He looked at me, his eyes red and tired. I feel like I've been living with a stranger. I nodded. You were. He spent the night in the guest room. I stayed in mine, alone but at peace. The next day, the news had already begun to circulate. Neighbors whispered, friends called. Some were shocked, some weren't. She always looked too perfect. One woman told me over the phone. Now it makes sense. I didn't gloat, I didn't shame. I just said the same thing to each person. You never really know what someone is capable of until the tea turns bitter. That week, I redecorated the kitchen, threw out every cup she ever used, replaced the curtains, repainted the walls. I even planted lemongrass outside, for tea I could trust. The pain of betrayal didn't vanish, but the fog in my body, the confusion, the slow crumbling, it stopped. I was healing. And the next Sunday, I walked to church with my head high and my own flask of tea in my bag. Just in case. Ada's trial began 2 months later. The evidence was undeniable, the video footage, the lab results, her own journal. Even the police said they'd never seen such a meticulously slow attempt at murder. She didn't cry in court. She didn't apologize. She just sat there in that orange jumpsuit, looking like someone who still couldn't believe her mask had cracked. Chuko attended every hearing. He didn't speak to her, not once. I could see the weight of betrayal crushing him from the inside. When the verdict was read guilty, the courtroom was silent. She was sentenced to 15 years without parole. Afterward, Chuka walked me to the car, his eyes filled with shame. I should have listened, Mama. I should have seen it. I took his hand gently. You see now, that's what matters. Back home, the house was quieter but not sad. For the first time in months, I moved freely, cooked my own meals, and drank only what I made. People asked me if I would leave the house, move in with a relative, or maybe start over somewhere new. But I said no. I built this home with my husband. I raised my son here. I grew every plant in the garden. I survived poison in this house, and I would heal in it too, because I'm not just a victim. I'm a mother, a fighter, and no one, not even a sweet-faced daughter-in-law with arsenic and smiles, would take that away from me. So now when I sip my tea, I don't flinch. I taste strength. I taste survival, and I remind myself every day, I'm still here. Please like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories.